गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जाय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जाय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शत श्रीमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जाय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शत श्रीमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शत श्रीमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शत श्रीमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णुपाद अश्वतर शत श्रीमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु महाभागवत श्री गोक्षर स्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्यानंद विश्व शुद्ध सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानुपुरी गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जी भोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रमनंतारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम अचय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री मुनि देवी गंग देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्री भजन रहस्य की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि। It will do Bangla Charan and then begin. अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। श्री सिद्धांत सरस्वती विदितो गौरीय गुरुर्वन्वये भातो भानुरिव प्रभात गगने योगोर संकीर्तना मायावारतिमिङ्गिलो दरगतान् उद्धृत्य जीवनिमान् कृष्ण प्रेम सुदाब्दिताहन सुखां प्रादात् प्रभुं तं भजे। वंदे भक्ति विनोदं श्री गौरशक्ति स्वरूपकं भक्ति शास्त्रज्ञ सम्राजं राधा रस सुधा निधिं। नमो भक्ति विनोदाय सच्चिदानंद नामिने गौरशक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगवराय ते। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। वृषभानुसुतान्वितवामतनूं यमुनातटनागरनन्दसुतं मुरलीकलगीतविनोरपरां भज गोद्रुमकानन कुञ्जविदम्। स्मर गौरगदाधर केलिकलं भव गौरगदाधर पक्षचर शृणु गौरगदाधर चारुकथं भज गोद्रुमकानन कुञ्जविदम्। तवैवास्मि तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना Iti vigyaya devi tvam nayamam charanantikam bhaktya vihina aparada lakshaya Shiptascha kama ditaranga madhe Kripa mai tvam sharanam prapanna Vrinde namaste charanaravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Saruparaya Sangha Harsha Shesha Ghoshanam Shikshanastakakya Krishna Kirtanai Kaposhanam Prema Nama Matra Jiva Vishwa Prema Nama Matra Vishwa Jiva Naika Sambaram Prema Dama Deva Meva Nomi Gaura Sundaram Premor Bhavita Harsheryo Dvega Danyarti Mishritam Lapitam Gora Chandrasya Bhagyavarbhir Nishevyate Prabhur Shikshashtak Shlok Jai Pore Shune Krishne Prem Bhakti Tar Bade Dine Dine Shikshashtaka Chinta Koro Smarana Kirtan Krame Ashtakala Seva Habe Uddipan Shakala Anartha Jave Pabe Prem Dan Chatur Varga Falgu Pray Habe Adarshan Jai Shri Shikshashtaka Ki Jai Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai Hare Krishna Dandava Pranam Sundari Hari Prabhu Bhavatharani Mataji Champak Mataji Anadi Krishna Prabhu Gopal Ghanasham Prabhu and all the devotees watching on YouTube and Facebook Indira Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, Rohini Nandan Prabhu, Ganga Mataji, Vidyalala Sadidi, Krishna Mai Didi, any other devotees watching on YouTube and Facebook, and also devotees watching in the future, like Shachi Devi, Jaidev Prabhu, Revati Didi, Krishna Rose, Manjari Didi, and everybody else. So we are continuing on with our reading of the second chapter, the Dvitīya-yāma-sādhana, Bhajana-rahasya. Wait, let me open up the file. And as I've been mentioning at the beginning of every program, these programs, while I'm finishing up the songbook, are very spontaneous, very, like I haven't read I'm not at all familiar with what we're about to read today. I haven't looked ahead or anything. And yeah. Once this book goes to the printers at the end of the month, then I'll be able to put more time into this and actually be a little bit more prepared. So I guess yesterday we read up to that song, verse 31. Okay. Oh, we're very close to the end. Maybe we'll finish today. That would be cool. Okay, so Dvitīya-yāma-sādhana, Prata Kaliya Bhajan. It says Bhajan during Prata Kal. That's 6 a.m., around approximately 6 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. The first 6 dandas of the morning. So there's no consideration of proper or improper time in regard to chanting the Lord's names, which are fully endowed with all potencies. This is described in the second verse of Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka. Nam namakari bahuda nij sarva shaktis tatrarpita niyamita smarane nakala hitadrishi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva me drishamiha janina anuraga. O Bhagavan, you have manifested, Akari, you have manifested many names, countless names, Bahuda Namna. And Tatra, there in those names, Arpita, you have invested Nijya Sarva Shaktis, all of your own Shakti, your potency. And Smarane, in remembering those names, Na Niyamita, there are no regulations, no restrictions regarding time, Kala. Can be chanted at any time, any condition, any circumstance. Etadrishi tava kripa, such is your mercy, O Bhagavan. But my Durdaiva, my misfortune, Idrisham, is such that Iha, here in these names, Nanuraga, no Anurag, Ajani, has been born within me, has awakened within me. Okay, so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives us verses explaining what is Durdaivam, and it is, even though we are so fortunate, it's like, even though Krishna is so merciful, he has given us his names. We have also Harikatha, the verse that he gives, it mentions Bhavata Prasanga, so narrations about Krishna, which destroys all inauspiciousness. But even though he has given us everything and he's made it so easy, still I still work, I exert myself so hard for the most insignificant, temporary, fleeting pleasures of this world, and I do all sorts of inauspicious acts to get these very, these very minimal, like these very useless, trivial, sense pleasure, and I make no endeavor towards following the instructions of our Guru Varga, this Harikatha. No, I don't make even a little bit of effort for this. And so that is my Durdaiva, that is my misfortune. And then, and misfortune also means anartha. Anartha means that which has no value, or also misfortune. And so then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains to us from the Amnaya Sutra Vakya, he explains in detail what are these four anarthas that we have. And then he further divides those four into another four, so there's 16. And then he explains to us, he gives us verses explaining how the most effective methods for nullifying these anarthas, Nam Sankirtan, taking shelter at Shri Guru's feet, taking exclusive shelter of Shri Guru, seeing him as one's own Lord and the dearmost person to the self. And then he goes through and he gives us this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which explains about, what is it, Anvaya and Vyatirek. Let's see, let's open up the word Anvaya. So this is the last verse of the Chatushloki of Bhagavatam. And it says, one who is inquisitive to know the true nature of the self, Atma Tattva, inquires through direct, Anvaya, and indirect, Vyatirek, means of deliberation about that object which is fully eternal. And so then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that endeavors, jatna means endeavors for anartha nash, for destroying anarthas, are duito prakar. There are two types. As Anvaya, mukhete, there's the method of Anvaya and the method of Vyatirek. So the Anvaya method, the direct method, is following, engaging in bhajan, following the rules of bhajan. And the Vyatirek method, the indirect method, is abandoning not doing those things that are nished, which are prohibited. So accepting all the things that are favorable, rejecting all the things that are unfavorable. And so now Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives us these verses explaining Vyatirek, the indirect method. And what are the verses that he gives us? Let's look at this one just because there's no commentary here that we can get through it quickly. What verse is that? Let's see. Anartha Nashira. Okay. So for Vyatirik, he gives us these verses. This must be, oops. This is the wrong one. Huh. Let's type in Anvaya. There. Okay, that's what we. So it gives us these are the Vyatirik, indirect methods of are all the things that we must give up, prohibited things. Vajrabhegam. So we must control the senses, the six urges. Must these are all the things that destroy bhakti. Bhakti vinashati. Eating too much, performing extraneous endeavors, speaking about mundane subject matters, all these things from Upadeshamrita verse 2. This is the only verse I don't understand why it's here. I think it would go in the Anvaya section, but anyways, these are the 6 loving exchanges between devotees. There are 6 symptoms of love between devotees. Shadvidam Pati Lakshanam. And then giving, for those who wants to engage in, those who are turned towards Bhagavad Bhajan and wanting to cross over the ocean of material existence, associating with materialists and women is worse than drinking poison. Mahaprabhu says that. Then one must avoid criticizing sadhus. One must understand that the seeming faults of their natures and of their bodies are not material. They're not material in any way. Just like the Ganga, which has bubbles, foam, and mud mixed in with it, still remains pure and transcendental. She doesn't lose her Brahmadravatva. And then verses from Manashiksha, first verse about giving up Pratishtasha, the desire for recognition, which is like a dog-eating woman. If she dances there, then how can train? What does it say? Anyways, I'm a bit spaced out, but yeah, how can the pure prema touch my heart? Therefore, we must engage in service to the incomparable commanders who are very dear to the Lord. They will banish this outcast woman of the desire for petition. And then the kapatata and kutinati. This kapatata, this duplicity, and kutinati, this hypocrisy or deceit, is like burning donkey urine. So, oh mind, why are you bathing yourself and me in this burning donkey urine of kapatata and kutinati? Instead, you should bathe in the nectareous ocean of prema for Sri Gandharva Giridhari, and thereby delight yourself and me. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the verse for the 10 offenses to the holy name. Dashnam Aparad. And then one must abandon false renunciation. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things that are related to the Supreme, though they are material, this is called incomplete renunciation. So no, that is false renunciation. No, we want to use all objects of this world in Krishna's service. We don't want to renounce everything and to engage in yukta vairagya. Then those jivas who are qualified to accept the holy name should reject the eligibility for karma. So one who gives up all duties and has taken full shelter of Mukunda, who is the shelter of all, is never indebted to or a servant of the demigods, sages, humans, or forefathers. So give up any other sense of duty, this karma, our karmic duties, are following one's dharma, like varnashram dharma, not daivi varnashram dharma, this your whatever. Okay. And then one should not be over-attached to following rules and regulations is niyamagraha, right? Well, niyamagraha has two meanings. Don't be over-attached to following rules and regulations that are unbefitting, and also don't be too lax in following the rules and regulations that you ought to follow. And then we have to understand why we're following, why we do everything we do. Why do I not do some things, and why do I do certain things? The only reason is to remember Vishnu and never forget him. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Jahe Krishna Smriti hoy, tai vidhi jani. I know that all rules are there to remember Krishna. And Krishna vismaraka karja nisher boli mani. And all prohibitions are there in order that one not forget Krishna. This is such an important verse. I have to remember this, why we do anything, why we don't do other things. It's only to remember Krishna and never forget him. And then one need not endeavor for karma, gyan, prayaschitta, etc. In the Padma Purana, it says, the two-legged animal who makes offenses to Hari is freed by taking shelter of the holy name. However, even though the holy name is the best friend of everyone, by making offenses to the name, one falls down. For those who commit offenses to the holy name, if it is chanted constantly, the name itself will take effect and destroy any anomalies. So how do we destroy Namaparad? By chanting constantly, sincerely. Okay. So, and then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives us this: if one makes an offense to the deity of Krishna, one can be delivered from that offense by taking shelter of the name. Offenses to the name are destroyed by taking shelter of the name. All perfection arises by constant chanting of the holy name. Okay, so those were all verses on the Vyakti Rev, all the indirect methods. And now we are then yesterday we began the Anvaya section. These are the direct methods to attain one's spiritual identity. So first he explained the knowledge of Krishna's Swarup, and the knowledge of Maya Swarup, and then the Jiva Swarup. And he explained, so he's explaining Sambandha Tattva, basically, right? What verse? I think we read up to verse 30. So, anyways, let's just see. So, one must endeavor to follow the direct method to attain one's spiritual identity. So, in order to do that, first, one should cultivate knowledge of Krishna. It is said in the Chaturshloki of the Bhagavat, Aham eva samayeva gre nanyadyat sarasat param pascharaham yaritachcha yo vashishyeta so smaham. I alone existed before the universal creation, and I am superior to the gross and subtle plane. I am what you perceive at present, and I alone exist after the universal annihilation. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.32. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Krishna's form is that of condensed consciousness. It is Chid Ghana, which is eternal and primeval. It's Nitya Sanatan. Everything else occurs due to a transformation of Krishna's potencies. Krishna Shakti Paryanati Anya Sangatan. Krishna is the supremely conscious sun that continues to exist in all situations. That which is separate from Krishna is inconceivably different and non-different from him. So that's knowledge of Krishna, Bhagavat Tattva. And now knowledge of the intrinsic nature of the Lord's potencies is also stated there. So this is also from Srimad Bhagavatam. What verse is this? This is the next verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, Rithertam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadatmano mayam yata bhaso yata tama. If that which appears to have some purpose has no connection to me, then you should understand this to be my Maya potency. It is like an appearance of light or darkness. So that's Maya Tattva. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Maya is Krishna's potency and is simultaneously one and different from Krishna. The Chit Shakti takes shelter of his nature and is the transcendental effulgence emanating from him. The form of matter stems from the Maya Shakti, who is like a shadow and is of the nature of darkness and ignorance. It is established in a world consisting of the 5 gross elements where all actions are temporary. And then, so that's knowledge of first Krishna, knowledge of Maya, and now knowledge of the Krishna Sarup, Maya Sarup, and now Jiva Sarup, the nature of the Jiva. And this is the next verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.34. Yata mahanti bhutani bhuteshu sorry, let me say that again. Yata mahanti bhutani bhuteshu vacheshvanu pravishtanya pravishtani tata teshu nateshvaham. I should learn these verses. Anyways, just as the material elements enter into the forms of the living beings, both high and low, similarly, I also exist within all created things. Yet simultaneously, I am outside of everything. So then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Maha Bhuta Uchavacha Bhute Avastita Hoya O Purna Rupe Maha Bhute Stita She Rupa Chir Angsha Sherup Chirangsha Jive Krishnangsha Vyapita Hoya O Purna Tri Krishna Swarupavastita. The material elements are present in the living entities, both high and low. Yet those elements remain in their complete form. Similarly, although an expansion of Krishna, Paramatma, who is a manifestation of his knowledge potency, Chit, so even though that pervades the jivas, Krishna remains unchanged in his original intrinsic nature. And then, did we read my Guru's commentary on this verse? Let us see. Let's see what's the key word. Swarupavastita. Yeah. I think we read this already, right? Yeah. I don't actually remember so much though. Let's just read it again. So my Gurudev says, after describing, this is Bhajana-rahasya written. So after describing his own Swarup, Sri Bhagavan says, I am situated inside and outside every living entity. Bhagavan dwells in every living entity as a supersoul. But not all living entities are able to perceive him. Only his devotees can realize him. Not only that, Sri Bhagavan is present everywhere in all places, and the devotees can also realize this. According to the gradation of their bhakti, devotees relish the existence of Sri Bhagavan and the nectar of his sweetness and beauty. The affection of the devotees for Sri Bhagavan is called prem, and this is prayojan tattva, the ultimate objective. The premi bhakta sees Sri Krishna everywhere, both within his heart and outside. This is the intrinsic characteristic, the Swarup Lakshan of prem, as described by Sri Krishna himself. Bhakta ama bhandiyache hridaya kamale jahanitra pore taha dekhaye amare. Smadhya Lila 25:127. The devotees keep me bound in their hearts with the ropes of love, and wherever they look, they see only me. Sri Bhagavan resides affectionately in the hearts of the devotees, considering them his own, and he resides in the hearts of the other living entities in a detached way. Sri Bhagavan is supremely independent, yet his quality of being controlled is that he resides in the hearts of devotees with a sense of possessiveness, those devotees who have mamata for them. Oh wait, no. He resides in the hearts of the devotees with a sense of possessiveness, mamata for them. He feels mamata for his devotees. The essence of spiritual knowledge is prem bhakti. And the wonderful confidential secret of Prem Bhakti is that the Supreme Lord becomes controlled by his loving devotees who make him their prisoner. I remember reading this. On Haribo Ganga Mataji Patita Pavani Didi, Vidilala Sapiri, Rohini Nanda Udan. Okay. So now knowledge of the intrinsic nature of the holy name is given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Purva 2:233. This is quoted from Padma Puran. Very important, very famous verse. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Bhinnatvan Nama Namino. The holy name is a transcendental, wish-fulfilling gem. It is Chintamani. For there is no difference between Shri Krishna there's no difference between Shri Krishna's name, Nam, and Shri Krishna himself, Nami. In other words, the holy name is the bestower of the supreme goal. It is the bestower of the Param Purushartha. The name is the very form of transcendental mellows. It is Chinmaya Rasa Swarup. It is completely pure. That is, it is unlimited and eternally liberated, devoid of any connection with Maya. Hari Nama Chintamani Chedrasa Swarup Purna Jaratita Nitya Krishna Nijaru. Let's look at let's look at this. So Krishna is a touchstone. It is the form of conscious ras. It is complete, pure, and eternally liberated. The name and the named are non-different. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the touchstone of Harinam Chintamani, is comprised of divine ras, this Chid Ras Swarup. It is complete, it is Purna, it is Jaratita, it is beyond matter, and it is Nitya, it is eternal. It is Krishna's own form, Krishna Nija Rup. Okay, sorry guys. Now my Srila Gurudev gives this commentary on this verse. Nam and Nami are qualitatively non-different in principle. Therefore, in the name Krishna, all the transcendental qualities of the possessor of the name are present. The holy name is always the complete absolute truth, unaffected by material matter. He is eternally liberated because he is never bound by the illusory energy. The holy name is Sri Krishna himself and is therefore the personification of the aggregate wealth of transcendental mellows. The holy name is a wish-fulfilling gem, able to give whatever one desires. Shri Nam Sankirtan, which is the practice, which is the sadhana, is non-different in every respect from Shri Krishna, who is the goal, who is the sadhya. The one absolute truth, who is imbued with transcendental mellows consisting of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, Satchidananda, is eternally present in these two manifested forms, Nam and Nami. Okay, so now, how do we chant that name though? Now we know the name is the wish-fulfilling gem. It is Chintamani. There's no difference between Nam and Nami. It bestows the supreme goal, the Param Purushartha, this Krishna Prem. It is the very form of transcendental mellows. It is completely pure and it is unlimited and eternally liberated, devoid of any connection with Maya. So now how do we chant that name? Now it gives this verse here. This is the next verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhaver Grayam Indriyai Sevon Mukhe Hi Jivado Swayam Eva Spuratyadha. And Haribo Nandan Nandan Prabhu. So the tongue and other material senses cannot perceive Sri Krishna's name, which appears automatically only on the transcendental senses of one in whose heart the desire to serve Sri Krishna has arisen. So any material senses cannot have any contact with Krishna's name, really. Aprakrita vastu nahi prakrita gocha, right? The gross senses are transcendental objects and entities cannot be reached by the gross senses, or the material senses side, prakrita gocha. So then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, Naam Rup Gun Lila Indriya Grahya Nai Seva Mukhe Kripa Kori Indriye Udoy. Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes cannot be comprehended by mundane senses. They mercifully manifest to the senses of one who is inclined to serve. Seva Mukh. I think I need to stand up. I'm starting to fall asleep. Let's read my Gurudev's commentary on this now. So, Naam Rup Gun Lila Indriya Grahya Nai Seva Mukhe Kripa Kori Indriya Udara. Okay. So 1 second. I'm just unplugging my computer. I'm going to walk around so I don't fall asleep. All right. So Bhajana-rahasya vritti. So it is the natural tendency of one who has a desire to serve Shri Krishna, who is Sevamukh, to be engaged in chanting Shri Bhagavan's holy name, which is his intrinsic form. The holy name himself appears and begins to dance in the tongue and other senses of one who has a tendency towards Nam Seva. In other words, an inclination for chanting. The Supreme Lord's name can appear even on the tongues of animals. Examples of this are Bharat Maharaj when he was leaving his dear body, the elephant Gajendra when he is being pulled into the water by the crocodile, and we can think of also all the animals in the Charikandi forest when Mahaprabhu was walking to Vrindavan, right? So now, the next verse, text 33, Srimad Bhagavatam states, Sve sve dhikarya nishta saguna parikirtita viparyayastu doshasyar ubayor esha nishchaya. To have unyielding steadiness on the path of Dharma, according to one's own qualification, is a virtue. Conversely, to make endeavors that do not accord with one's qualification is a fault. So we have to always follow accordingly what we're qualified to do. Shouldn't be too lax and shouldn't jump too high. We have to see where we're at and follow that. Our nature, our qualification, what level we're at. Adhikar susamata karje hoy guna viparita karje dosh bhujibe nipuna. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, those persons who are authorities accept that engaging in activities according to one's eligibility is a great quality. It is understood by experts to be a fault to engage in the opposite activity. And now it's Srila Gurudev says, the purport of this verse is that virtue and vice are determined according to one's qualification and not by any other criteria. Interesting, huh? So we all have our own, everybody has their own individual path that they must follow. It's not exactly the same for everybody, and so we need to see what is my qualification and act accordingly. And we need help to do that. So that's why we need sadhu sangha. We need sadhus who will instruct us and help us act according to our qualification. Now, qualification for chanting the holy name is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 20, verses 27 to 28. It says these verses are very important, very powerful verses. Jatta Shraddho Mat Kathasu Nirvinna Sarva Karmashu Veda Dukhatmakan Kaman Parityage Pyanishvara Tato Bhajet Tamam Prita Shraddhalur Tridhanishaya Jushamanaschatan Kaman Dukho Darkanschagarhaya. I love this verse. It's so practical. It's so, he says, although a person's faith in hearing narrations about me has been awakened, he may still find himself unable to give up sense enjoyment and the desire for it, in spite of knowing it to be the cause of misery. If this is the case, he should sincerely condemn his inability to give it up and continue to worship me with firm faith, conviction, and love. I love this verse. Such an important verse. Okay, so now, this translation says, one whose Shraddha has awakened in narrations about me, who is disinterested in all mundane activities, knows that all material desires are full of misery, yet he is unable to abandon them. Still, he should continue to worship me with love, being full of Shraddha and resolute conviction. He will engage in those desires which only lead to suffering, and at the same time, he will repent. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, Krishna Katha Shraddha Labh, Tyaje Karma Sakti, Dukhatmaka Kama Tyage, Tabu Nahe Shakti, Kama Seva Kore Thaha Koriya Garhan, Sudrida Bhajane Kame Kore Vidvangsa, Punyamoy Kama Matra Udishta Ethai, Papa Kame Shraddha Dhanir Adhar Nahoy. So he says, one who has achieved Shraddha and Krishna Katha abandons attachment to karma. However, he does not have the strength to reject material desires, which are the source of suffering. He continues serving those desires while reproaching himself. Through strong determination in bhajan, those desires will be eliminated. The desires alluded to here are full of mundane piety. One who possesses Shraddha harbors no interest in fulfilling wicked desires. So now, Srila Gurudev's Bhajana-rahasya vritti. He says, by the influence of association of devotees, being in satsanga, a person develops a taste for hearing Harikatha. At that time, he will lose interest in all other activities, and with firm faith, he will continuously chant the name of Sri Bhagavan. However, if someone is unable to give up sense enjoyment or the desire for it due to his previous habits, in his heart, he should deeply lament his continued attachment to it. Here, in these two verses, in text 34, the intrinsic nature of bhakti is described by mentioning the first symptoms of the qualification for bhakti. Sarva karmasu means that all material Vedic activities and the fruit of those activities result in sadness, being distressed by a miserable mind. Kaman means realizing the miseries that result from the desires arising from associating with the opposite sex. If a person is unable to renounce these desires, he should, from the beginning, have the firm conviction: if my attachment to household life is destroyed, or if it increases, if my bhajan is full of millions of obstacles, or if I go to hell because of offenses, I will accept it all. but I will never give up devotion. I'll never give up bhakti, even if Brahma himself tells me to. A person who performs bhajan with such staunch faith will certainly be successful. Even if desires causing misery arise from association with wife, children, etc., a person should condemn those desires and continue fulfilling his worldly responsibilities. However, he should never give up bhakti. The desire for enjoyment will gradually diminish by hearing, chanting, and so forth, and one will ultimately attain bhakti. And Haribol, Sarveshwari Mataji, and Chatamaya Mataji. Haribol. Okay. So now the 6 principles favorable for bhakti are described in the 3rd verse of Upadeshamrita. What time is it? Okay, we have 10 minutes. Utsahan nishchayat dhairyat tattat karma pravartana sangatyagat sato vritte sharbhir bhakti prasiddhyate. Perfection in bhakti can be achieved by the following 6 kinds of practices. 1. Utsaha, to be enthusiastic in following rules which nourish devotion. 2. That's nishchaya, to have firm faith in the statements of the scriptures and the Guru, whose words are fully in line with Shastra. 3. Dharyat, to be patient in the practice of bhakti, even in the midst of obstacles or when there is a delay in attaining one's desired success. 4. Tat karma pravartana, that means to follow the limbs of bhakti, such as Shravan and Kirtan, and to give up one's material sense enjoyment for the pleasure of Krishna. And then 5. Sangatyagat, that means to give up association that is opposed to bhakti, like illicit connection with women, the association of those who are overly attached to women, and the association of Mayavadis, atheists, and pseudo-religionists. And lastly, 6, to adopt the good sato vritte, to adopt the good behavior and character of devotees. So, utsaha dridata dhairya bhakti karje rati sangatyag sadhu vritti chaye karamati. Enthusiasm, determination, patience, attachment for those activities connected to bhakti, rejecting bad association, and following proper conduct. One's mind should be focused on these 6 things. Okay, so now Srila Gurudev explains this. He says in the Bhajana-rahasya, he says, to maintain one's existence and to cultivate bhakti are both necessary for devotees. The first half of this text indicates the activities that nourish bhakti, and the second half describes how a devotee should conduct his life. Enthusiasm, utsaha, conviction, nishchaya, patience, dharya, executing activities that nourish devotion, tat karma pravartan, renouncing bad association, sangatyag, and adopting the virtuous conduct and temperament of pure devotees, sad vritti. These are all the means to attain perfection in bhakti. Utsaha means to remain indifferent in every respect. Utsaha means to remain indifferent in every respect to the practices related to gyan, karma, anyabhilash, which are desires other than Krishna, and also to one's preferred variety of material enjoyment. So being indifferent to that, while steadily executing the limbs of sadhan bhakti. So we have to have this firm faith. Bhagavad Bhakti is the only ultimate objective for all living entities. Such firm faith is called a nishchay, conviction. I remember when we were reading through Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's articles on all this, I think he went through the entire Dashmala Tattva in the Nishchoy chapter, right? So also to have this understanding of Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan and to act on it, that's Nishchoy. Straying to the paths of karma, gyan, and so forth, make one's mind restless, and following their practices simply produces suffering in the end. Therefore, the firm resolve that the path of bhakti is the only constitutional path for sincere living entities is called dharya, fortitude. Must not, patience. Even though I'm not attaining I just stick with it. I have faith in this and I continue practicing, even when it's difficult. Then Srila Haridas Thakur took a vow never to give up chanting, and he strictly adhered to it. He said, when he was beaten in all the marketplaces, right? The 21, what is it? How many marketplaces? 21 marketplaces, was it? Or 22? Anyways, he said, Khanda khanda hoy deha jai jodi pran, tabu ami badane na hari hari na. So Adi Khanda 1694, he says, even if my body is cut to pieces and my life air exits, I will never abandon the chanting of Harinam. This is the ideal in the realm of bhakti. To cultivate the practices of bhakti, such as hearing Harikatha, chanting the Supreme Lord's name, and meditating on his name, form, and pastimes with firm conviction, like Haridas Thakur, that is tat karma pravartan. Only in the association of Sri Bhagavan's devotees, only the association of Sri Bhagavan's devotees is desirable. One should never associate with karmis, jnanis, or those filled with extraneous desires, or desires outside of service to Krishna. One should know such people to be less intelligent and indulgent. Karma, jnana, ashtanga yoga, and so forth, which are devoid of the desire to please Sri Bhagavan, are not steps on the path of bhakti. The path of bhakti is characterized by saintly conduct, by sadhu vritti, because all virtuous qualities certainly reside within a person who possesses devotion. Enthusiasm for serving Sri Krishna, conviction in service, being steadfast in Krishna seva, ensuring that all endeavors are solely for service to Krishna, renouncing the company of all others except Krishna's devotees, and following in the footsteps of Krishna's and following in the footsteps of Krishna's devotees are the 6 practices that enhance bhakti. All right, so how long is this? Yeah, we could read this next one in 3 minutes, I think. So then the gradual development of bhakti through the association of genuine sadhus is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-25. Satang prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katha tajjoshana rashvapavarga vartmani shraddharatir bhaktir anukrameshyati. In the association of pure devotees, there are powerful discussions that illuminate my heroic deeds and that are pleasing to both the ears and the heart. By hearing these narrations, one quickly proceeds along the path of the removal of ignorance, which is the sequential development of Shraddha, Rati, and Prem Bhakti. So those are the Sadhan Bhakti, Bhav Bhakti, and Prem Bhakti. Okay, so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Sadhu Sange Hoy Krishna Katha Rasayan Tahir Shraddha Rati Bhaktir Krame Uddipan. The medicine of Krishna Katha must be taken in the association of sadhus. From that, Shraddha, Rati, and Bhakti are eventually awakened. And we all know Rati is synonymous with Bhav. So this is everything, all the stages from the very beginning, Shraddha, to the whole Sadhan Bhakti, all the way up to Asakti, and then Bhav, and then finally Prem. When it says bhakti, it's referring to prem bhakti. So they're all eventually awakened. Now, Srila Gurudev's commentary, Bhajana-rahasya vritti. By great fortune, the living entity wandering throughout material existence may attain that kind of sukriti which bestows bhakti, bhakti unmukhi sukriti. When this sukriti accumulates over many births, it gives rise to faith, to shraddha, an exclusive devotion. And that's what we understand in that verse. Adau shraddha tatha sadhu sangha. Innocent that adau first is especially sadhu sangha. That's when you get the most sukriti. And then finally, that's why you see sometimes people immediately coming in contact with devotees, they immediately surrender everything and they become devotees so easily, so quickly. Why? It's because they've accumulated lots of sukriti in their previous lifetimes or maybe in that lifetime. And so, yeah, when sukriti accumulates over many births, it gives rise to shraddha, an exclusive devotion. When shraddha arises, the desire to associate with pure devotees and true saints manifests. And by this association, one will gradually develop a taste for sadhana and bhajan. When anarthas are removed and this shraddha becomes pure, it transforms into nishtha, which in turn, when pure, transforms into ruchi. The beauty of bhakti makes this ruchi very fixed, and thus it turns it into asakti. Gradually, this asakti gains perfection and transforms into bhav. When bhav combines with its corresponding components in the right proportion, ras appears. This is the gradual development leading to the appearance of prem. That's an interesting explanation of when it says when bhav combines with its corresponding components in the right proportion, ras appears. This is the gradual development leading to the appearance of prem. Okay, so tomorrow, what time is it now? It's 8 o'clock, so we'll stop here. What will we read tomorrow? Tomorrow we're going to read about the Madhyam Bhakta renders service to 3 kinds of Vaishnavas. That famous verse, Dvitīya-yāma-sādhana. And then, what's after that? About Yukta Vairagya. Let's look at this one. This one doesn't have. So, yeah. Yukta Vairagya. Another, and then, let's see. Oh, wait, what's this say? Sorry. In the 11th canto, one engages in his profession according to his nature, then by gradually giving up his actions that are born from the modes of material nature, one eventually attains the stage of nirbun, going beyond the modes. And then the trick to do this is a muni should be satisfied simply with that which maintains his life and should certainly not gratify the senses. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions this in so many kirtans. Jivana Japana Lagi. What is that? Anyways, there's I know of, I think 4 places in his songs where he mentions this point. Then one should especially be careful about one's association. Then Hari Bhakti Vilas explains that one should be carefully traverse the path of the Mahajans, which should follow Satovrite, right? And then the simplest path is that traversed by the previous Mahajans. What is it? Mahajana Sapanta Kanta. What is that thing? Anyways. And then what's next? This must be done with full endeavor. Is that how the chapter ends? Yeah, that's how the chapter ends. Okay, so that will be our reading for tomorrow. I think tomorrow we'll finish our reading. So, all right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. जय श्री सच्चिनंदन गौर हरि की जय, श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय, श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय, जय श्री गुरुदेव की जय, जय श्री परम गुरुदेव की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री रूपानुग गुरु वर्ग की जय, सपाशा श्री गौर नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय, श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीगण की जय, श्री गिरिराज महाराज की जय, श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय, जय श्री भजन-rahasya की जय, जय श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय, जय श्री गुरुदेव की जय, जय श्री परम गुरुदेव की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवाश्च कृष्ण भक्ति पददेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Dandava pranams, dear devotees, Sri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarini Mataji, Champak Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, Sarveshwari Mataji, Anadi Krishna Prabhu, Gopal Ghanasham Prabhu, Nanda Nandan Prabhu, Chattamai Mataji, and let's see on YouTube and Facebook, Rohini Nandan Prabhu, Ganga Mataji, Patita Pavani Didi, Vidyalalasa Didi, Indira Mataji, and all other devotees watching on YouTube and Facebook, also devotees watching in the future, Shachi Devi, Jaydev Prabhu, Revati Didi, Manjari Didi, Krishna Rose, everybody else, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you so much for joining, and see you tomorrow to complete our reading of this chapter. And then the day after that, day after tomorrow, is Janmashtami Eve, isn't it? I'm going to be leaving the day after tomorrow, though. I'm leaving at early in the morning, 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to be going to Jaipur for a program in Jaipur. I think I'll still be able to do a program on Janmashtami Day, but not the day before Janmashtami. I'll be in the car. All right. Is there anything anybody wants to mention before we end for today? All right. See you all tomorrow.